Welcome to another episode of the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, and also best-selling author. And every single day, I help others unlock the potentials and guide them to succeed. Today on the show, we have a very, very fascinating guest. I've been very honored to see this person live on stage, and man, he brought everybody up to their feet. Very, very inspirational, very, very powerful, driven, resilient. In fact, if you think of the words driven and resilient, this is the guy we have to connect to because his story is absolutely amazing. A story that none of us could ever think of, and it's beyond our imagination. So I'm very, very excited to have him here. Now, he's helped countless people all around the world overcome challenges and turn their goals into reality. But not just individuals, small business owners, or entrepreneurs. He's also helped some of the biggest name companies out there, from ConocoPhillips to Intel, Bechtel, and also Bank of America, just to name a few. Now, he's also an author of the book Unlimited Possibilities. He's a world-renowned business coach, speaker, and entrepreneur. So please welcome CEO of Wealth Fitness International Group, Mr. C.K. Charles.
Hey, Fong, how are you?
I am absolutely amazing. I feel great, and I'm better now. I have you here.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm really excited and good to see you, man.
Well, I'm very, very excited to have you here. I'm very excited to hear your stories because I know for sure there's 2 or 3 stories that I'm very excited to hear about because, man, you're an amazing storyteller on stage, and your story is absolutely amazing. So let's not skip to the other questions. Let's go right into your story. How did you begin? How did you become the C.K. Charles that's been revolutionizing business entrepreneurs and business owners?
Absolutely. So in 2006 and 7, I was working for Shell Lubricants. That's the oil and gas company in the United States. And I remember, I just come from Africa. I was born and raised in Kenya. We grew off of less than $1 a day for a family of 5. Talk about struggle. That was the real struggle. And so years later, I find myself in the United States after having lived in Finland briefly and Australia and migrated to the United States. So I get my job in Shell and, $14 an hour, I'll never forget. And I thought this was it. And one day I'm training a lady that had been there for 30 years. And Fong, she tells me that she's been working for Shell for 30 years and I'm training the lady to take my job. And that just kind of, bothered me a little bit. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? At the time, Shell was trying to outsource most of the accounting department to the Philippines, but they were going to leave some, some veterans there, people that have been there for a long time. And that's why I was training this lady. So I decided out of curiosity at this time, $14 an hour, I think I'm making it in life. And I said, hey, Miss Crystal, I have a question for you. How has the company been to you? 30 years, you're very loyal. She goes like, man, it's been amazing. I have $100,000 in my phone. I say, what? Wait, what? $100,000? Now, here's the interesting part. I'd never seen $100,000 in my life, but I knew that wasn't a lot of money because I'm thinking 30 years later, 100K. So I fast forwarded my life 30 years and I'm like, holy cow, this is where I'm going to be with 100K. Literally 2 days later, I quit my job. That's how I started. I was just like, this is not me. Now, here's the funny thing. So I quit my job, no notice, no nothing. So, of course, I wasn't going to get my last paycheck because they are very, very strict. They say, if you don't give a 2 weeks notice, you don't get your last paycheck. I had my car note come in, so my car had to be reported that week. And I'm stuck in my apartment. I don't have a job. I had another security job that I got fired 2 days later because they found me sleeping. So literally in 1 week, I lost 2 jobs. I quit from one, I got fired from the other. And my security job was more like a part-time thing. They found me sleeping on a Thursday and they go like, you're fired. So now on the weekend, I'm seated at my house and I'm thinking, my apartment, what the hell am I going to do with my life? And I remember that the only money that I had was only $50. And I go there, I saw some guys that put some road signs on the road, talk about small beginnings, and they had put their signs saying that 50 signs for $50. I'm like, what can I do with 50 signs? And I used to make websites, really bad ones, but I didn't think that then. And I went and I put a sign. I hired this company. They put signs there. Professional websites, 40% off. I didn't name the price. I just said 40% off. Call this number. And I literally went on the streets midnight and I plugged those signs on the streets and I waited. Sat in my bedroom. I started getting phone calls. Hey, I saw a sign. You guys do 40% off. Where are your offices located? And Fong, I kid you not, this was me. I would literally answer the phone like this was a big corporation. I'm like, thank you for calling CK. My name is CK. Thank you for calling CK Web Designers. And how can I help you? They're like, yeah, I saw a sign, 40% off. Where are you guys located? I'm like, well, the beauty about our company, you don't come to us, we come to you. Because I had no office. I'm seated in my bedroom. And people love the professional aspect of it. And this is what I always tell people. Even in humble days when you're starting your business, you gotta build it right. I would tell people one-man show, they'll be like, let me see if there's any representative available to help you. And I'd put my radio on the phone, play the music, and come back. And I'm like, all the representatives are busy, but I'll be more than glad to help you. And I realized that, I met a couple of clients because they were like, oh, I don't have to come to you guys. All right, here's where we can meet. And we met at a McDonald's. My first check was for $600 for a website. My second check was at a McDonald's again for $2,500. And I was like, I'm on to something. Like literally, I'm building websites for total strangers who saw my sign. And I'm like, I need to build this right. So that was my first business venture, which then led to me saying, wait a minute, people would come to me, a couple of friends that I knew, and they would tell me, hey, can you help me with my taxes? And I'm like, well, it's not my thing, but I can help you. And the more people kept asking me, literally 1 year from starting my website company, somebody asked me, why can't you just like put a couple of flyers together and just tell people, all these friends that keep asking you? And so I put a couple of flyers together, didn't know a lot about taxes, but I had someone who was mentoring me on it. And this is again another thing that I always tell startups: get someone from day one to mentor you. Don't think about money and resources. And I didn't have money at the time, but I told a guy, look, I'm gonna pay you a little bit of money if you can just mentor me. I just need to know how to file these taxes. I'll pay you for your time. Every time I call you, I'll pay you $20 for you to answer my questions. And so I would put my questions together, do a phone call, give the guy like 20 or $30 sometimes, and he started mentoring me. And that's how I started my tax business, which then I ended up franchising 3 years later, grew to 8 different states. By the time it was 5 years, and now I became nationwide, and the coaching and consulting business was birthed from that front.
Wow. I mean, for somebody who has no formal education in accounting or taxes to being a person who actually franchises a company of doing so, that is absolutely amazing. And also, you didn't have formal training in creating websites either.
No.
Literally, you just went out there and go, hey, I'm open for business. Come to me now.
That's what I did. And how I learned how to build websites, by the way, when I was doing my security job at night, it was so boring. So I literally hanged out with my laptop in my car because my post was an outdoor post. So I would make sure that my laptop is charged up all day. And so when I'm in the car, I used to get bored watching videos and movies. And I'm like, you know what? I want to learn how to make a website because I wanted to make a personal website for me, like just who I am and stuff like that. And I was like, that's what $50 can do. So talk about starting small. I started my business with $50 and a cell phone. And I hear a lot of times entrepreneurs going like, man, I just don't have the capital. I don't have the money. I can't do it. And sometimes I'm like, what do you have in your hands that you can use right now? Maybe you have your time. Maybe you have a cell phone. Maybe you have a laptop. Go out there and become, here's one thing I tell people, you got to become resourceful. Okay, because if you're not resourceful, the universe will not align resources for you until you become resourceful.
No, you kind of started right when you're already in the States.
Yeah.
So what was CK like at the age of 12? Was he like, you know what? I have aspirations to becoming this big CEO and all these businesses. Like, and then did people kind of go, come on, you're kidding yourself. There's no way you're gonna be that.
Well, interesting thing. So, growing up, like I mentioned earlier, we were so poor, and so what happened was I kept seeing opportunities, and I remember I used to get in a lot of trouble because of that. So we lived in a very very small house, and right at the backyard, which is not even a backyard, I'm talking about like maybe a 10 foot by 10 foot backyard. My mom had planted like some spinach and some tomatoes because we couldn't afford to buy tomatoes every day. So one day I go at the backyard and I see that all these tomatoes are ripe. Literally, I pluck them, I go outside the gate and I start selling them. My mom comes and she's like, what is wrong with you? This is for consumption. Here's the interesting thing. I didn't know the price. I did not know what it goes for in the market, nothing. I just knew we needed some money because I was tired of hearing my mom constantly say, we need money, we need money, we need money. So I gave her that. Now, later on, I'm like equivalent to US, maybe like sixth grade, seventh grade. My mom's giving me money to eat at school because I can't come back home for lunch. Instead of eating at school, I started saving my money. And I saved it for 3 years without telling anybody nothing. And then I bought one of those old cameras
Uh-huh.
and I started taking photos at students at school, and they would pay me for me to go and take the film and develop it for them. So I started making money at that early age. My dad thought I was dealing with drugs. He's like, where are you getting the money from? And they did not know it was my lunch money. So they would give me like 30 shillings for lunch. I would eat five, literally eat French fries every single day and save 25 until I bought a little camera. And so at 12, I was being an entrepreneur. I just didn't realize that's what it is. I was just tired of frustration. And here's another thing, for when you are tired of the frustrations in your life, you will do whatever it takes. Because I didn't realize I was so tired of poverty. And that's why I was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. It wasn't about getting a formal education at that point. It was just like, I need to do whatever it takes to become resourceful.
That is absolutely amazing for somebody so young to start thinking that way without seeing how other people are doing it. You're just doing it on your own. Now, I'm
Yeah,
sure there's a lot of other kids out there who are sitting there beside you. It's like, what is CK doing? Like,
absolutely.
why not eat the burger? Why not get more food? Why are you just eating fries? I mean, like, did anybody question that? Did you tell them what you were doing? Did anybody else join along with you?
Interesting enough, I didn't share what I was doing, but I had a lot of people that were constantly. I'll give you an example. Later, a couple of years later, I moved on to high school, but I went to a boarding school, and on that boarding school, there was no canteen at school and stuff like that. When you reported to school at the beginning of the semester, whatever you had, that's all you had to leave off. Once a month or twice a month, they would have someone who would come and sell bread. But what I used to do when we report for the semester, I'd buy boxes of cookies. These big boxes, they have about 300 cookies inside. And so what I would do, instead of students just depending, because again, the high school didn't sell any cookies, there was no canteen or anything. You either had bread with tea or tea by itself. So for me, I'm like, you come to my cubicle, I got cookies. And so I was selling cookies, which got me again in a lot of trouble. But to answer your question, people will always question what they don't understand. And it's not your job to explain to them. You just need to be committed to your goals in life. And that's all I knew. I don't want to be broke. I don't want to be poor. I'm going to do whatever it takes to survive. And so that's what I would get the money from the cookies. And when the 2, 3 times the bread would come to school, I would use that money to buy bread. So I never lacked because I was being resourceful. So yeah, people always question me.
I mean, like, you would think the school goes, hey, maybe he's on to something. Maybe we should start stocking up some cookies and selling that instead of having CK do it.
No,
Now,
that's not what they were thinking.
you've mentioned a few times that you've gotten into trouble.
Yes.
And after all those things that's happened to you that you go, wow, I got in trouble here, I got in trouble there. Have you ever regretted those? Or have you gone, you know what? That made me stronger, that made me better. I can learn from it. I would do it all over again.
Now, here's the thing, Fong. We have a 2 million year old brain. right? It's a 2 million brain. It's designed for survival, right? And so what happens most of the time, because your brain is designed for survival, we're constantly looking for always something that's wrong. And so in my life, I couldn't help it but constantly look back. What's wrong with me? Why am I getting in trouble? Until I realized that fear was the main cause of why I was having all these regrets, because regrets started becoming really recently, just in 2019, and probably we're going to share this later in the story, is I got in a really, really big trouble that had nothing to do with me. But here's one thing that I've discovered: the journey is more important than the destination. Now that I'm more mature in life, I understand that I needed to get in trouble to become the person that I am today, because I'm the type of person that I'll knock doors in companies, in Bank of America and things like that, and say, look, I got something I can offer you guys. And I'm not worried if they're going to tell me no, because I'm so used to getting in trouble growing up that I'm like, you know what, it is what it is. Now I understand the journey is more important than actually the destination. So that has made me the person that I am.
Has it been a lot easier for you to convince clients or to inspire or to motivate clients when they go, you know what, I can't do this, I don't have this, I don't know this, and then you go, hey, listen to this story, and then you give them your
Absolutely.
story, and then it kind of makes them go, you know what, I'm speechless.
Here is the problem with the consulting world and the coaching world. A lot of people are teaching book knowledge, but they have no experience. And that's really the difference maker, because your story is your story, Fong, no matter what. You can't steal my story from me. This is my experiences. So when I teach, I'm not only teaching book knowledge, but I'm also teaching experience. And experience is what makes people who they are. It's not what you read in the books. And so, absolutely, to answer your question, yes. Many times after people hear my story, people that are saying, look, I can't make it. Look, I've lived in 3 different continents. I went to Finland not knowing any single person. I became homeless there, migrated to Australia, succeeded a little bit, then became homeless, lost everything, came to the United States. I mean, what's your story? And people will tell you, I've been applying for money at the banks and they've told me no. I'm like, yeah, how many times did you go to the banks and they told you no? Twice? I'm like, how about you try 100 times? Do you know how many times I used to be rejected when I started franchising my company? I'm like, hey, we have a nice business model. No, it took sometimes over 120 requests for considerations. These are people I'm talking to, I'm meeting, I'm flying, and I'm seeing, just to get one yes. And then you get an average person who's like, I've done everything I can. I'm like, really? What's everything you can? How many times have you tried? How many people have you called? I was just talking to someone this week. It's like, life's difficult. Can you help me some money? I said, how many resumes have you submitted the last 1 week? None. I said, you don't need money. That's not what you need, right? So
You need a mind shift.
yeah, you need a mind shift.
Now, for yourself, you've worked with some of the biggest companies out there. I mentioned a few at the beginning there. When you're working with individuals, it's a lot of mindset stuff. When you're
Yes,
working with big companies, what do you find is the most common reason why companies are not where they're at, or why they come to you?
culture. Culture,
Mhm.
right? So when it's individuals, like you said, it's more mindset. When you're dealing with companies, it's more like culture. Culture will eat your strategies for lunch. It doesn't matter. You guys can have the biggest plans and the biggest strategies and biggest systems and technology and stuff like that, but the culture can mess it all up. And I find people are coming to me mostly because they're like, we don't know where the problem is. And I go in there and I'm like, it's the culture. There is different culture at top management. There is different culture in mid management. There's different culture at the bottom there. And if it's not all integrated, then there's so much conflict in organizations. And at the end of the day, they're not able to get the results. Now, here's the interesting thing. Every company has a culture, either by design or by default. It doesn't matter. Even if you never sit down and plan the culture of your company, there is one in default. And people will follow that culture, and that culture will determine the results that you get in your company.
Mhm. Now, it's very, very common for employees at companies go to say, well, it's been like this for years and years and years and decades. How can we expect anything to change?
Yeah.
And then other people also say that, well, who listens to the smaller group of people or the people at the bottom of the chain? It's only the people at the top who makes all the decisions anyways, and they might say they listen to you, or they might say, hey, fill out the suggestion box, and therefore they stop giving the suggestions. They start losing hope, and that
Yeah.
kind of integrates into the culture.
Yeah.
So how would you go into a company that's been existing for many, many years to change that culture? What's the first thing that you do, and then how do you get the higher ups to follow suit?
Well, so here's the thing. Sometimes actually I go the opposite. I start from the top, going all the way down. And the reason I say that is because, even a snake, if you want to kill a snake, you start with the head. If you cut the tail, that snake might still bite you. So actually, I tend to use the top bottom approach most of the time. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna try and get them to understand it's very, very different. One of the things that we try to do as an organization is implement change management tactics in any company, because the hardest people to change, by the way, are those guys at the top. They're like, this made us money, why are we changing it? And I'm like, well, now we're not making money, we need to change it. No, it's just the people at the bottom. They're very good at shifting the blame, right? So that's usually the first thing that we want to do is we start implementing some change management processes and teaching people how to adapt to new change. The world right now is crazy. It's moving very, very fast. Most of the things are being done online. Cultures have been disintegrated. Many company cultures are taking a whole different life because now I don't have to show up to work. I can work remotely. So am I still part of the company culture? So we are also trying to adapt with all these things, because before it was more, and again, people always think culture has a lot to do with how we dress and how I talk to the upper management and things like that. But it's more than that. It has a lot to do with attitudes, the attitude of the mind, understanding the company goals and visions. So usually we start with change management. The next most important thing is realigning everyone to a common vision. You will be surprised. Even high corporate America companies, you go to bottom management and you say, what's the vision of the company? What's the purpose? What are the values? What are you guys striving for? And people just say, I don't know. I'm just here to make money. I don't know what they're after. And there's a they and we type of language in a lot of these companies. So we have to realign everybody to a central core vision, and that's where you can start seeing the change.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, you've worked with some of the most influential people in the world as well, not just the companies and the CEOs and the upper management of those people, but you're also involved with community.
Yes.
You're involved with head of states and
Yes.
diplomats, and you work with all those people.
Yes.
Have you found a common kind of personality or a common type of leadership skills that these people have because you've dealt with so many of them, even if they have different backgrounds?
Yes, absolutely. Here's a one thing that I'll tell you for a fact. Talk about, for example, head of states and things like that. They are so driven, is unbelievable. And I think if there's one thing, sometimes I think I'm going to add value, and I end up being the one like, man, these guys are really adding value to me. They are so driven. I mean, I've talked to head of states that for months and months they've put in about only 4 hours of sleep. Now, not saying I necessarily agree with some of their policies, neither am I saying that you should not take care of your health and sleep 8 hours or 7 hours, which are healthy habits. But when they're in a season of something that they really, really want, okay, maybe it's a policy they're trying to pass, maybe they're trying to rally and get so many allies, so they go in these life cycles and these seasons, they're really go-getters. And another thing is, this is interesting. They can be the nicest person provided you are in alignment with what they're doing, but they can be really brutal. And I'm talking about really, really, if you don't understand their heartbeat, that they care for you, you can really be pissed off. Like, hey, this guy is being a jerk. Why is he being an a-hole like that with me? But it's because their purpose, their vision comes first. Everything else is second. And so if you're standing in between that, you're pretty much like an enemy. So very, very aggressive in leadership approach. And which is interesting, because I think sometimes in business, you need to learn how to work with your people, but the core of who you are should always take precedence.
Mhm.
Don't change the vision to accommodate the people. or the purpose of the organization to accommodate the people. The people should change to be able to follow the vision.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned before that you may or may not agree with some of their policies, may or may not agree with some of their visions, but you still don't want to be that enemy of that person, right?
Yes.
So how do you stay true to yourself, stay true to your vision, yet still navigate through those waters where it conflicts with what they're saying or conflicts with what they want? How do you still maintain that relationship to move forward?
So that's $1 million question. And by the way, someone asked me that, someone high ranking in a particular country. And the thing is this, you have to have your minimum uncompromisable values, right? Like, hey, if you're going to violate this, then I'm willing to depart from what you are all about, right? So, for example, if someone says, hey, we need to kill this person. That's politics. Those things happen. I don't know about in the US, but I know in Africa they happen. We need to kill this person because they're being an obstacle. And you ought to be very comfortable in learning to walk away because now they're getting to a place where they're going to make you compromise on your minimum set of values, right? And so you need to get to a point like, if it's this, I'm willing to walk away. But if it has to do with things that we don't know the outcome, maybe it's a health bill policy. We don't know what the outcome is going to be. I think it needs to be implemented this. You think, you know what? I don't want to be an enemy. I'm going to support you, but here is my stance. And I need you to know very clear this is where I stand. And if you do that, you end up gaining trust because you speak up and you challenge these personalities, because most of these nations are built around personalities.
Mm-hmm. Now, that's when you're dealing with personalities of high people, high-ranking
Yes.
officers and individuals. If we take it down to a social media standpoint, right? How do you navigate through those? Because you may or may not want to be supportive of one issue or another issue, and so on social media, it's so easy for people to just have a backlash, jump onto people, cancel people, and whatnot. So how do you determine, should I say something here or not say something here? Do I agree or disagree? How would you play with that?
So the first thing I always ask people is, what's your brand? What do you stand for? Like, you should stand for what you stand, right? Now, there's a thin line. Like, I want to be very careful because business is not politics. So if I'm a business personality, I want to be very careful how I deal with politics. Like, for example, just not so long ago, I advocated and I told people, hey, make sure you go out there and vote. I did not say who I was going to vote for, but I'm just saying, like, as a responsible citizen, you ought to go out there and vote. But people say, no, you need to tell us where you stand. I said, that's irrelevant. My personality as a business personality, I'll say what I stand for. If it's things to do with abortion, as an example, I'll say what I stand for, right? And so if it happens to be the right or the left that stands for that thing, well, good, then we match in terms of we agree on that particular item. But I think sometimes we allow politics to detour us, and now you want to impress people. So when I'm with a Republican, I share my Republican beliefs. When I'm a Democrat, no, what do you stand for? So there's nothing wrong with saying this is what I stand for. And really, that's where you gain your respect from. That I may disagree with you, but as for this is what I stand for. And at the end of the day, I could be wrong, but at least that's what I stand for.
Mm-hmm. Now, listening to you speak here, we feel that energy. You're a very giving person. You add a lot of value, and also you do a lot for the community as well. You have your main chairman of many boards. You have nonprofit organizations that you support, that you run. Tell us more about that involvement, and also what are some of the things that you want to change?
All right, very good. So one of the things is that I'm a chairperson of Lone Star College, now a little over 100,000 students, and I'm very passionate about that because I stand in the business advisory board. And what we decided to do is we decided to bring the business community to the school, because most of these schools were sending students out there not even realizing if what they're teaching them is valuable in the real world, in the community. And so I was one of the first few people to introduce, and I said, let's go and get the business community to come in. And it was very interesting because that board is comprised of professors at the business community. And I'll never forget our first meeting. The business community was like, all these students you guys are sending us, they're good for nothing. Like we're teaching them everything from scratch. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, education needs to be way more hands-on. And one of the things that I'm very passionate about now, talking about what do I want to change, is that I realize most of these community colleges now, they've become businesses, right? So they don't care about the output, they don't care about the results, they just care about, man, how many sign-ons can we have, because they're making millions and millions of dollars. They have Swifting accounts where they're making so much interest, is unbelievable. So they don't care about the quality. Now, I was not fortunate enough to say that I have an MBA from Harvard and all those things. I believe in academia, but I also believe the world is changing. And so the education needs to really, really become different. When you want to talk about money management skills, finances, people need to start being taught how to handle, personal finance, even while they're at school, right? People are being taught how to become doctors and never be taught how to manage the money once they become the doctor. So things like that I'm very passionate about. And the other organization I'm part of is called KCM, and they fight domestic abuse and sex abuse and things like that. And I'm big passionate about that because there is a lot of domestic abuse that's happening both on male and female, and so I participate on that. The reason I participate in these organizations, Fong, is very simple. I grew up in a very interesting home dynamic, and I've always been passionate. I believe so much in education, but I'm also passionate in just making a difference. What's the essence of making all this money if you cannot affect change in the community? And so those are some of the things that I'm participating on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You give so much to the community. You add so much value. You have a great reputation with diplomats, heads of states. You do so much stuff. You work with big companies, lots of individuals, changing the world. Yet something happened.
Yes.
Something happened a few years ago, or a couple of years ago. And I'll let you tell the story as you see fit, because I'm not sure what you can or cannot share. But having that type of reputation and then having this big thing happen, one, how can that happen with this great reputation? And then two, what happened afterwards? Was it easy to build that back up? Did you have to build it back up? Or was it something that you're still working on?
All right, absolutely. No, more than glad to share about the story. In 2019, I was doing my world tour. So I'd been doing world tours every year. Starting April, I would do at least 30 to 40 countries every year, doing business seminars all over the world. Asia, Middle East, Africa, Europe. So in 2019, I'm on a world tour, and I've just finished 12 countries. I just finished my European and Middle East tour, and we're doing lots of events. Now, the way the events work is we would do probably a couple of large events, small events, large events, small events. So it's in a cycle while we're doing these events. And we usually have them lined up, right? So it's not like I wake up and I'm like, tomorrow. It's like we'll plan all the 32 countries from the beginning of the year. Everything's booked, paid for. We hit the road, and then we go country after country. So in 2019, I'm doing a tour. I finished 12 countries. My 13th country is in Rwanda. And so I land in Rwanda the night before, usual schedule, get the team together. Hey, what are we doing? I'm traveling with some of my staff members, but Rwanda happened to be a large event. So this was my second time there, and we were actually expecting somewhere around 10,000 people. Lo and behold, 25,000 people showed up. So now, on the day of the event, long story short, is I'm waiting to go on stage. I have my MC who's just introduced me. The room is packed. We're going to end up doing 2 sessions because the venue cannot accommodate 25,000. It can accommodate at least 15, but not 25. And this has happened to me before, so I know the drill. We get the couple of guys, we put some speakers out there. We're like, guys, we're going to do a second session starting at 3 o'clock. Just go grab some snacks, hang around the compound or whatever we need to do. And I'm about to go on stage, and the room door on the holding room burst open, and here's about 20 men with guns, and they say that we want to talk to you. And I'm freaking out because I'm like, wait, what's going on? Maybe it's a security thing. They need to evict, take me out of the building, evacuate me or something like that. They say, no, you need to come and talk to us. So they come, they put me in a room. I sit there and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. It's been over an hour and I'm like curious because remember the MC had just introduced me.
Yeah.
So now nobody knows what's going on. Everybody's like, wait, what's going on? The guy's not coming up on stage. So they kept playing my cue music and I'm still not going on stage. So I'm on this room and I wait, and there's a guy guarding me with an AK-47. And then they tell me, all right, now come, you're ready. You can go and speak to these guys and explain what you're doing here. I go in there. The Minister of Justice is there, the head of police, the head of the investigation bureau is there, the Minister of Youth is there, and it's all these officials, and they go like, what are you doing in our country? I say, well, I'm doing a business seminar. They say, well, there's a lot of people gathered and we're a little bit concerned about that. I say, well, the hotel was aware about that. We didn't know that, it was going to be 25,000 people showing up. And they say, well, are you a politician? I say, no, I'm not. Well, then they ask me for my passport. I bring my passport. Mind you, there's nothing wrong going on. They just ask me questions. So I literally go to my room. I bring my passport. I show it to them. And they go like, are you a politician? I said, no, I'm not a politician. They said, well, you need to tell us the truth. I said, I am not a politician. So one of the guys flips his computer around and said, then what are you doing with President Bush? So I had a photo in my social media and I had President Bush on there. I said, well, I was at an event. We spoke on the same stage, and that's why I have a photo with him. They say, how about the president of Guyana? What are you doing with him? How about the president of Sierra Leone? Literally, they've taken their time. They've done a research. Now they're just showing me all these photos. And I said, okay, look, I see where this is going. I'm over there smiling. I'm like, I am not a politician, but I've trained for government entities. I've been privileged to be around some of these people. And that's why. Now, I had one photo. Now, talk about branding. I had one photo with the president of Burundi. Now, I got to know the president of Burundi through a mutual friend, and then I went there so many times because of his non-profit work. So anytime he's launching a new project, I would go there. And there was one he was doing for farmers. There's one he was doing for community. They were building houses and hospital. So there's so many photos, and I'm with him, next to him on all these photos. And when they opened that photo up, I did not know that Burundi was the enemies to Rwanda. They believe that the genocide happened because of the people in Burundi, and Burundi happens, their genocide happened because of the people in Rwanda. So they've always been enemies since time. When they saw that photo, the room erupted. You're the one that's creating political instability in our country. So is he the one that sent you? How much money is he giving you? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. He has not sent me. So nobody wants to believe me, and they believe that he has sent me. So they tell me that you're under arrest. They put me in there, and then they go and interrogate me for 12 hours. Same question. What do you do for him? How much is he paying you? How many times have you been seeing him? And at the end of the day, I'm still like, nothing. No, I'm not a politician. And then I disappeared. So they took me into a safe house. So nobody knew where I was at. And so that went on for a couple of days. But now, remember what I said at the beginning of the story. We used to line the countries up. So from there, I was supposed to go to Kenya, and then I was supposed to go to India. So thousands of people show up in Kenya for the event. I'm not there. Thousands show up in India. I'm not there. So a tweet started that I'm dead. So people started tweeting. Then it somehow got to the Kenyan embassy in Rwanda. I'm originally from Kenya. Then they tipped the US embassy that this guy is a dual citizen. Last known destination was Rwanda, and nobody know where he's at.
Wow.
So that's how I surfaced after all that stuff. Now, to end the story, and I'm not going to go into so much detail, they tortured me. They did everything they can. They put water on me, put me in trenches, asking me information about what I was doing with this person. When the US embassy intervened, they said, oh, here's what we're going to do. We're going to let him go to court and explain himself, because we are a democratic country. We have a legal system that's independent, which it's not, but they wanted to cover their tracks. So when I went to court, they started the games, and the games ended up being something like this. Every time I'd go to court, this is July 15th, they say, case for CK, we'll listen to it in November. The docket is full. Thank you so much. In November, I go, they push it till February. So I was there for 2 years waiting to be tried. 2 years. That's what happened. So I was in 2 years in maximum prison security, the worst place. I could not wish my enemies this. There is a lot of deception going on in that country, and I'm not here to discuss politics, but like I said, I speak the truth with exactly what happened in that nation. The government owns the media platform, so they decided when the US embassy started giving them pressure, they went on the news and they started putting stories, fake stories, that I promised to give people money at the end of the event. Fong, you've been a coach a couple of years. You know how we give people value bonus, like, hey, you can get this for free. It's worth $197, but if you stay till the end, we're gonna give you all this material for free. They said I promised people money, and that was fraud and stuff like that. And so they put me in there.
Wow.
But here's the thing: you asked me when I left there. Do you know what's interesting? I made a lot of money while I was in prison. Yes. And if you're listening to this and you're an entrepreneur, and let me tell you, you have to, and I say this before, you need to learn to become resourceful. When I went there, I found the former prime minister is being arrested for a bounce check. He was given 3 years. We know it's politics. He didn't write a bounce check, but we know we found the minister of finance over there, prime minister, head of infrastructure. All these guys are in there. So I started a mastermind. I started adding value. I did a fast free event with few guys. Literally, I would meet them in their cells so I was put on isolation for about 3 months, and then they brought me out. So when I left the isolation, I formed a group of people, and we would meet. I gave them value. And then after I gave them value, I started explaining to them about asset protection and all these things. And they had in contact with their families. And so they started talking to their families, hey, you need to send some money somewhere, because I told them where they can send the money, because this guy is doing this and this and this for me. And so I did that, and I helped those guys. And we are friends till today because I helped them so much. Made so much money while I was in there. Is unbelievable. Of course, those guys had the money to pay for it, but what I mean is that I didn't allow that to stop me from being who I am. Yeah.
I know. That part completely shook me. I'm like, you had masterminds in the prison.
Yes, I did so many of them. Yeah.
Wow.
At some point, my brother tells me, because he used to get the phone calls from these guys' families, he said, CK, are you doing drugs in prison? Why are people sending me 8K, 12K? I say, no. I need you to go open this corporation and put this name, and you need to go and talk to this lawyer, and you're going to do this and this and this. Because most of those guys, they needed to, protect their assets, and they did not know how to. So I educated them. I told them what they needed to do.
So for the reason that you were put in there, okay, because they alleged thinking that you're connected with all these people, you're in politics and all that kind of stuff. Yet you're hosting masterminds and you're talking to all these other people. Did they not go, wait a minute, you shouldn't do that?
So here's the thing: nobody knew. And the reason nobody knew is because I was considered a high risk prisoner, and the people I was talking to were considered high risk as well. So nobody knew. And I know it's going to leak one day, but most of those guys now are out or they're about to finish their terms. But that's what we were doing because they were very, very protective of me. They could not let me just speak to anyone, but that's what we were doing. And we would do it even while we're doing labor stuff. So someone is thinking that we're cleaning restrooms, we're having a mastermind, So that's kind of the strategies we had to use. It's not
Man.
like we just sat down, would pretend we are eating, but actually I'm training them on what they need to do. So much so the day I left that country, I got stopped at the airport right before I entered the plane. They
Ooh.
told me we need to see your bags. I
Oh,
went down through security, got out, went to the check-in area. They had to pull out my bags. We opened my bags and they went through all my notebooks that I had, all my notebooks,
wow.
just to see if I had written anything negative about the country. But I used my time very well. While I was there, I read about 230 books. Not that they were very, I mean, I read anything I could get my hands on because that was the only way to stay sane. And so I left there. Luckily, I'd put some systems in place. Talking to entrepreneurs, guys, if you're listening to this, you need to have systems in place. If I did not have systems in place, I'd probably come back and start from ground zero.
Wow.
As much as I started somewhat from ground zero, I lost a lot of businesses. I lost a couple of things that I had put in place because I wasn't there to manage and monitor. The few systems I had in place allowed me to start from somewhere. And so at least even with the little money I was making while I was in prison, I had it, going on into other things, taking care of a few of my employees that I had that was still waiting for me. And that's what helped me. So I kind of started from zero, but not quite zero. So I
Mhm.
started rebuilding from there.
Okay, you talked about how you kept on reading books, you did these masterminds, you had discussions to keep you sane.
Mm.
How did you keep yourself like going? Like it gets to a point like a day goes by, you're like, okay, a day went by. Oh, a week went by. And then also months and months, a year. Was there a point in time where all of a sudden you're like, oh, I had enough? Or
Mm.
I can't see a end of the road here. Like, how did you go past that?
So I'm gonna be honest with you. I had a couple of those moments and they were very stressful. I had moments that I was just feeling like I'm giving up, like I'm losing my mind and things like that. But I had a very interesting revelation in my mind that they arrested me physically, but they did not arrest my mind. So what I started doing, I started practicing a lot on visualization. Actually, soon I'm gonna be coming up with a book on that. I literally would take vacations while I'm in prison. I'd close my eyes and I'm like, okay, I'm going to Bahamas today. All right, yeah, I'm at the airport. Yeah. So I really mastered the art of visualization because luckily for me, I had seen some of those places because of traveling around the world. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to Berlin today. And so provided I'm not doing manual labor because we used to go out for manual labor, I would just literally sit down and practice visualization. So but there are days you're just like, why is all this injustice happening to me? Now, here's something interesting. At the end of the day, you're going to survive there because you're using this, because it's a whole system
Mhm.
in prison. The currency, the trading currency is sugar. So if you want to start building networks around you, you gotta use sugar and give people around you so you get some protection, so your things don't disappear and things like that. So for me, I was just like, I'm running a company here and I need to figure out how to do it to survive. So I had a guy that I used to pay sugar to protect me while I'm taking showers because that's where a lot of things go down. So yes, he was a big guy, so he to stand in the bathroom and stuff
Wow.
like that. I had a guy who used to clean my clothes and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a whole economy there. Yeah,
Wow.
but you
I
have to
mean,
use your mind.
you don't need VR. You could
No,
just do
no,
it.
no, no, no,
Um,
no VR.
the last thing I want to touch on with regards to this subject is you came out. Did you have to rebuild your reputation, or did people just automatically go, no, he was always like this, he was fine, he was good. This is a blip. Or did you
So,
have to convince people that no, this is not true?
and by the way, I just got out in 2021. So I believe in the quadrant. There's a quadrant I stand with, and that's why this has really helped me. 25% of people love you no matter what you do, right? They don't need an explanation. 25% of the people love you, but they're looking for a reason not to like you. And that happened to be that experience. So there's a group of people that liked me, but they were like, yeah, we knew something was wrong with him. 25% of people don't like you, but they're looking for a reason to like you, which has been interesting working on my favor. People going like, oh my God, I wanna know you more because of what you went through.
Yeah.
I used to hear about you, but now I see your story and I understand. And then 25% of the people will never like you no matter what you do. Fong, you know this. So I have lost some business. That's truth because of the people that liked me and now they're like, no, I'm not sure I want to do business with you. But I've gained a whole lot more because of what happened to me. Because now there are people that value process. There are people that are like, if you could go through that and here you are still pushing, still doing business internationally, you have something to offer me. I want you to be my consultant as an example. I've gained a lot of business through that. We're here because of my story.
Yeah,
So
that's true. Wow, that's absolutely amazing. The time with you has flown by. I enjoyed it immensely. I got a few quick things for you to answer. First thing that
yes,
comes to mind. But before we jump into that, if you had a legacy message for everybody to remember CK for, what is that legacy message?
don't give up.
Short and sweet.
Don't give up. That's it. That's it. There's still hope. You cannot afford to give up. I've been at the end of it all every time I've wanted to take my life out of frustration. I've seen injustice. I've been homeless. Here I am, still going. Don't
Wow.
give up.
I
Yeah.
mean, you shared so much that people can take bits and parts and learn from and apply. Absolutely phenomenal. Thank you very much for all those great stories, all those tidbits. Before we end, like I said, 5 quick questions. Give me the first thing
Yeah.
that comes to mind. Stranded on the deserted island, one food to eat for the rest of your life with no consequence.
Greens.
Greens?
Yeah.
Wow, still healthy. Hollywood calls and goes, CK, your story is amazing. We want to do a biopic on you. You get to choose who plays you.
Mhm. Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe shows up at your door and go, hey, CK, I got the part. I want to play you. I want to get to know you. Boy, I'm hungry. And then you go, no problem, Russell. I'm going to go to the back there. I'm going to cook you something great. What's that special dish that you could prepare?
Grilled chicken with a certain type of rice we eat in Kenya. It's called pilau.
Awesome. Do you have oh, you're traveling on the road, very, very long road trip, and there's one song that's stuck that plays over and over and over again. What's that one song that you don't mind listening to for a long time on repeat?
Never would have made it, Marvin Sapp.
Great choice. And finally, what is success like? But before that, number from 1 to 5.
3.
1, 2, 3. So if you were to relate success to water painting, how's success like water painting?
Oh my God. If I was to relate success to water painting, I guess is that it comes and goes. Water painting, very easy to wash off. It comes and goes. But the most important thing is that your imagination in what you can create with water painting is what makes you successful. It's not the fact that the water paint just you painted and it got all washed out. It's the fact that you created something. So you should constantly be creating something, even though it may come and it may go.
I see that. So that's how success is like water painting. Anything that you would like to still share?
Absolutely. You are phenomenal, and I'm so glad to be part of this. Keep doing what you're doing, coaching and consulting with all these organizations, entrepreneurs, real estate deals, and things like that. Fong, you're the guy to go to. And I'm saying this after having spent time just understanding what you're doing, and I'm super impressed. So thank you so much for the value you're adding in people's life. I wish we had more of you while we were trying to build our business. Would have probably been way farther. It's because of people like you that the world's going to become a better place. So absolutely, thank you for what you're doing.
Well, thank you very much for that. Much appreciated. Like I said, thank you so much for your time, your stories. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Facebook, CK Charles, website wealthfitnessinternational.com, and you can get to know more about what I'm doing and stuff like that. You can reach out or even Instagram, Wealth Fitness International.
Great, awesome. For everybody, make sure you connect with CK. Phenomenal guy, as you can tell. Great, inspirational individual. Very driven, very resilient. Somebody that we should all connect to and learn from and work with, because this guy is absolutely amazing. Thank you very much. He is CK. My name is Fong Chuan. Until next time. Today is the day to unlock your peak potential. We'll see you later.
Thank you.